The very thing New Zealand Post was created to do, send letters, is quickly becoming unprofitable. Every time it tries to raise prices, it's met with outrage from much of the public, like when it announced recently the cost of posting a letter was going up by 20 cents to $1.20 from July 1st. So does the letter service have a future? Here's Zac Fleming and Nick Monroe with a checkpoint experiment.
When was the last time that you personally sent a letter?
I can't remember that far back.
10 plus years maybe.
It's been ages.
I actually can't even recall a time I ever sent a letter.
Only 10% of the 500 million letters that will be sent in New Zealand this year will be for personal reasons.
Big business, bulk business are the primary senders.
But banks, utility companies, almost every big sender actively encourages customers to opt out of paper. In the second half of last year, 38 million fewer letters were sent compared to the second half of 2016. Now, imagine you're the boss of the company tasked with making money from letters.
This year will drop by about 14%, and of course that then affects our earnings by about $30 million.
Dave Walsh is acutely aware of the task he's facing. He was promoted to CEO of New Zealand Post just over a year ago, after 2 years as CFO. So he's helmed 3 years of scrimping. And around 2,500 redundancies later, the belt can't go much tighter.
We're generally on that line of loss and gain. Most of the reasons we've just stayed on the right side is the amount of costs we've taken out of our business. That's getting harder and harder for us.
So now the only thing left is to get a new belt. On July the 1st, New Zealand Post will increase the cost of sending a letter, only by 20 cents from $1 to $1.20, but it follows the cancellation of Fast Post and the reduction of Standard Post or snail mail to every second day delivery. More expensive, less offered. So we conducted a little experiment. On the Tuesday morning after Easter, just over a month ago, I sent 6 letters from Auckland CBD to RNZ reporters across the country, in Whangarei, Hamilton, New Plymouth, Napier, Nelson and Dunedin. They all cost the same, $1. New Zealand Post target is 3 days, but that's just that, a target, not a guarantee.
Let's go get the mail.
Another beautiful day here in Paradise in Taranaki, and yeah, we're off to check the mail.
Got here, let's have a look.
Hi, so it's Saturday.
Of the 6 letters, 4 hit target. Dunedin, which to be fair was the farthest at 1,400 kilometres away, took 4 days, although still not bad for $1. But New Zealand Post lost the letter I sent to Robin Martin in New Plymouth.
Doesn't look like there's any mail in the letterbox or in the plants. It just simply hasn't arrived.
And all New Zealand Post can offer is an apology. There's no way to figure out what went wrong, so there's no way to fix whatever the problem was.
We're running at about 85 to 90 items out of 100 are hitting our 3-day letter service. And of course these are not tracked, so while we don't want anything to go missing in our network, if something occasionally goes missing, we've got no way of exactly knowing that.
But is that good enough? Before tracked parcels, we had no choice. But in 2018, why pay for an unreliable service when you can email for free, or pay $3 more and get it tracked? The tricky part for New Zealand Post is sending letters is a fixed cost business, and it's legislatively locked into keeping more than 880 postal outlets and nearly 2 million delivery points. It's trying as hard as it can to pivot to parcels as online shopping continues to grow. Recently it bought 13 new trucks and an extra 737 aircraft. But it's not enough. New Zealand Post directly attributed its $13 million loss in the second half of last year to parcel growth not making up for letter losses. So will the government let New Zealand Post shrink or even scrap its dying snail mail service? The minister responsible is Claire Curran. She wasn't available for an interview, but New Zealand Post's deed of understanding with the government is up for review in November. And caught in the middle of all this are the workers. New Zealand Post has laid off around 2,500 people over the last 5 years.
It's about making sure that we can support those people to either equip them with the skills to go and find a job in somewhere else, or try and look to make sure that the jobs that are left are full-time and meaningful, right? So they're not just boring jobs. So that's why we've been lobbying New Zealand Post really hard to keep the video coding, and that's because that's quite a technical job.
Joe Gallagher from Union Etu. Video coding at New Zealand Post is when an address is illegible to a machine. A picture of it is then analysed by a person somewhere in New Zealand.
Contracted out some of that work at the moment to the Philippines. It defies logic that you would contract those jobs overseas.
Joe says those negotiations are ongoing, but he's hopeful NZ Post will stay New Zealand Post. At the end of my interview with CEO Dave Walsh, I asked him to try and predict the future. If letters drop by 60 million each year, it could be almost completely a parcel business by just a decade.
We don't know where it's going to go. The global data is telling us expect probably half of what we're doing in 10 years' time.
There's only one thing that's certain.
We've got to expect that letter pricing will continue to go up.
For Checkpoint, Zac Fleming.